Become a part of one of the fastest growing Magic the Gathering communities today, Heroes and Legends. Check out the description below to see 2 ways to support the channel. The first is Patreon, where you can get an exclusive Heroes and Legends Classic Art token. See our Patreon page for full details. Or you can explore our Amazon affiliate store, which collects and organizes some of the best MTG deals on Amazon. If you make any purchases from any Amazon sellers through these links, a small percentage will come back to support the channel. Thank you to everyone that makes this channel and its content possible. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. And this is for week ending March 25th, 2017. And as you can imagine, we got a lot to talk about, especially in the modern market. But more on that in a few moments. We're going to start off, as we always do, with Standard. And we're going to look at the top 5 Standard cards that have lost value this week. You're going to see a lot of the usual suspects here, but it doesn't mean they're bad cards or they're not even seeing Standard play necessarily or don't have the potential to see Standard play. It's simply there's a lot of factors right now going into Standard cards just being soft in general. And that is, number one, a lot of packs have been opened of Kaladesh as well as Aether Revolt at this point, not to mention some of the sets prior, like the Battle for Zendikar block. Secondly, there is a little bit of disinterest coming from some players right now in the Standard format due to its lack of diversity, as Mardu Vehicles decks have gotten stronger and stronger, as well as 4-color Saheeli decks. It's turned a lot of people to other formats, like Modern, for example, which more on that later. And finally, and probably the biggest factor, is simply the fact that Amonkhet's coming out soon. In just a couple weeks, we'll be getting preview cards every day for Amonkhet, and that means a couple of things. Of course, a huge shift in the Standard meta, hopefully, and a lot of players are going to be waiting to pick up Standard cards until they see what's going to happen with the meta. And the other big cloud looming over Standard's head right now is we know that once they announce all the cards for Amonkhet shortly after that and before the Pro Tour, we're going to get another banned and restricted list update. And due to the fact that certain cards have showed a fair amount of dominance again in Standard, there is the potential that there could be some banning. So everyone wants to just wait and see what's going on right now. So having said all of that, coming in at number 5 is Gideon Ally of Zendikar, down 74 cents to 22.31. Perfect example of what we've been talking about. A card that's been very successful, but has been opened a lot, and at this point is just uncertain as far as whether it's going to be a key player in the new meta. Number 4, Heart of Kiran, down 86 cents to 19.08. A card that potentially could see a banning, and at the same time, players don't want to invest in a $20 card when the meta is about to change. Number 3, Torrential Gearhulk, down 98 cents to 18.08. Again, another card that's suffering from its high price tag. Number 2, Saheeli Rai, down $1.22 to 11.40. She's actually come down quite a bit now. And finally, number 1, Virtuous Gearhulk, is down $1.74 this week to 15.62. Alright, what's hot right now in Standard? Well, I hate to use the word hot. These are the cards that gain value, but you're going to notice these are very, very small increases. They're really more indicators of gameplay more than anything that I would even consider a substantial financial increase. So let's look at them and see what's going on. Coming in at number 5, Traverse the Ovenwald, up 10 cents to 4.23, so very minimal gain here, but it is a card that's still seeing Standard play in these Golgari decks, not to mention the fact that it's seeing a large amount of play in Modern right now in Death Shadow decks. Number 4 is Worldbreaker, up 12 cents to 3.38, again, very, very minimal increase here, but it is a card that, much like the last one, is seeing play in Standard and Modern. Coming in number 3 is Drana, Liberator of Malachor, up 13 cents to 5.16. Again, at this point, when you're talking about 13-cent increases, this could probably be almost any card. But it is worthy to note that Drana does see a little bit of fringe Standard play. There is a Vampires deck out there in Rakdos colors that isn't heavily played, but every once in a while will put up a good result. So she does exist in the meta. Other than that, she's mostly just played in Frontier at this point. Number 2, Fatal Push up 24 cents to 541. This is one of those cards I mentioned in a video earlier this week that this is a potential pickup for you if you're looking at perhaps either just having a play set for the future or just some cards that you might want to turn around and trade a few months down the road, because I don't think this is going to dip anywhere below $5 probably at any time at this point. A lot of packs of Aether Revolt have been open. This isn't uncommon, however, it does appear that it's slightly harder to get than most uncommons. It kind of falls maybe between uncommon and rare in some cases. But what you know for sure is the fact that the demand for this card is super huge right now. It's seeing play in Legacy, it's seeing play in Modern, it's seeing play in Standard. Everybody wants play sets of these things. That's not going to change. Bite the bullet. If you haven't picked up your play set yet, just get them now. And coming in at number 1, Botanical Sanctum, up 25 cents to $3.97. Now, this is one of the fast lands, but it's seeing a lot of play in a number of places. Very, very popular in Standard, first off. It's seeing play in the Saheeli decks, of course. It's seeing play in the Aetherworks decks. It's seeing play in the Tower decks. But then cross over into Modern, and yes, it's seeing play in decks like Lantern Control there. All right, speaking of Modern, here's the main event for the week. Modern is crazy right now. Let's look at the top 5 cards that lost value first. What you're going to see here are 2 things. In some cases, cards that did get a reprint, Modern Masters 2017, are coming down a little bit. Secondly, cards that recently spiked are snapping back a little bit. Coming in number 5 is the first Modern Masters Blood Moon, down 210 to 36.35. Of course, this was recently reprinted in the new Modern Masters. Number 4, Basilisk Collar, down 211 to 1036. Another card that was recently reprinted in the new Modern Masters, but this actually spiked recently as well. So this is getting the double whammy of not only snapping back from its spike, but also being reprinted at the same time. Number 3 is the Time Spiral version of Ancestral Vision, down 213 to 51.76. So this card spiked when we found out it was not going to be a Modern Masters 2017, and now it's starting to snap back just a little bit. I think this card will settle in around $50, and then it will start ticking up slowly until the time comes when it does get a reprint. Coming in at number 2 is Tarmogoyf from the first Modern Masters, down 242 to 112.62. This one, of course, just got the reprint in the new set, and that particular version is a little more affordable, so that one's got the spotlight this week, and because of that, this one's tumbling just a little bit. But you're going to see in just a few moments that Modern Masters one is quickly catching up with the others. Coming in at number 1 is Doubling Season, down $4.32 to $60.63. Now, this again spiked about a week ago or so this isn't unusual. It's snapping back to that $60 price point. I think the card will stick around $60 to $65, at least for a little while now. But again, if it doesn't see a reprint at some point in the future, it will continue to tick up. This could be a $70 card maybe within a year or so. All right, here's the big news for the week. We're going to look at the top 10 Modern cards that have gained value this week. I'm actually going to look at 10 cards here, not 5, due to the fact that there's so much going on in the market. To make up for time, I have condensed the Legacy portion. We'll look at that in a little bit. But let's talk about these cards, because there's a lot to unpack here. All right, coming in at number 10 is Tarmogoyf from Modern Masters 2017, up $4.30 this week to $91.55. So the days of the $70 and $80 Tarmogoyfs have already passed us by. This thing's past the $90 mark and is quickly climbing. This will be $100 before we know it. We're going to blink an eye and this thing's going to be $100 again. So here's the deal. This is quickly catching up with the other Modern Masters Goyfs. I have no doubt it will get there sooner than later. Will there be a second wave of product to hit stores? Sure, no doubt there will be. We just don't know exactly when, and we don't know how big that second wave is going to be. But I will say this. If you watched our video on Modern Masters 2017 we did a few days ago, I talked about this at length, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But I do want to tell this to anyone who didn't see that video. If you're thinking about picking up some of these Modern Masters 2017 singles, and I'm thinking of the hot ones like the Fetchlands, Tarmogoyf, Liliana, Snapcasters, those type of cards, you probably just want to go ahead and do it. You might not want to wait for that second wave to come. When the second wave comes, prices may stabilize. They might even dip a little bit, but it doesn't matter because they're climbing so fast at this point that they're not going to necessarily go down to where they were, or maybe even where they are today as of the filming of this video. So you may want to just bite the bullet and start picking up the cards you need, because I think it's only going to get worse, quite honestly, for these cards. Yes, more supply has hit the market, quite a bit of supply. However, this product has gotten so much positive attention that it is bringing a lot more people into the Modern format and putting much more of a demand on these cards at the same time. And we've seen this before with other Masters sets, especially the first Modern Masters, but it seems to be almost amplified this time around. Everybody wants play sets of these fetch lands, and players are not waiting. They're going out there to get them. Players want their Tarmogoyfs. They want their Lilianas. You're going to see all of these cards on the list today. Coming in number 9 is Pain's Reward, up $4.35 to $5.04. This card was featured by Wedge from the Mana Source in a video earlier in the week, and it just brought a spotlight to this card, so it's gone up. This will be a temporary increase, but it's just definitely worthy to note because of the huge percentage increase this week. Coming in at number 8 is Swans of Burn Argyle, up $4.40 to $4.97. Huge percentage increase for this card. So there's a fringe modern deck out there. It sees a little bit of play, and it uses this card as well as Seismic Assault. It's called Seismic Swans, as a matter of fact. And it was recently spotlighted by Seth from MTG Goldfish. And we've seen this many times in the past. It's a great deck for him to showcase because it does allow for a little bit cheaper entry into Modern. There were some cards, they're going up in price now as you can see, but some relatively cheap cards in there, and it's a deck that can at least hold its own. It's not a tier 1 deck, it's not going to be taking down any GPs or anything like that, but it's something you can play your Friday Night Magic if Modern is the format. You can play with your friends who have Modern decks, and you're going to get some wins here and there, right? So whenever Seth has featured these decks before, this is what happens. They get a bump. A lot of people are exposed to the deck for the first time. They want to pick up the singles and they want to build the deck. They do so, and then the hype kind of subsides. That's what's going to happen here. This card will snap back probably relatively quickly, but at least for this week, it's got a nice increase. Number 7, Scalding Tarn, up $4.70 to $47. This, of course, being the Modern Masters 2017 version. And like I mentioned earlier, you'll see a few fetch lands on this list already. They are aggressively climbing, even the new ones aggressively climbing. Number 6, All Is Dust from Rise of the Eldrazi, up $5.09 to $19.99. Now, I did a video earlier in the week talking about undervalued pickups out there. This was one of them. Looks like some folks have figured that out now because this is climbing pretty aggressively. Now, this is a card that sees a lot of Modern play in Tron decks. It has for a while now, and the fact that it's an Eldrazi tribal sorcery means that it's going to be hard for Wizards to find a good place to reprint this. I mean, it could show up in a From the Vault or something like that, but for the most part, it's going to be tough for them to put this into any sort of wide release product anytime soon. So watch out for this one. It might snap back a little bit from this increase, but it's going to continue to climb. Coming at number 5, Verdict Catacombs from Modern Masters 2017, up $5.78 to $44.25. Number 4, Mishra's Bauble, up $6.69 to $44.96. I don't have anything new to say about this card. I talk about it every week, so I'm just going to tell you a story instead. A number of years ago, when Cold Snap was out, it was a small set, and it came out during the summer, which was a little bit unusual at the time for Magic. They were trying something a little bit new. Time Spiral, which of course was a big set, the first set of a new block, was about to come out. A lot of people were hyped for that. I loved Cold Snap as a set. I went out and bought a lot of packs. It was actually the first pre-release I ever went to. I played Magic for a long time before that, of course, but just never went to a pre-release. But a friend of mine was around and said, "Hey, you want to go to pre-release?" And I said, "Sure." So I went to this pre-release, and I loved this set, and I bought a lot of singles, traded for a lot of singles that I wanted. I had everything I wanted from the set, and the owner of my local game store said that he had so much of the product because they over-ordered it everywhere, basically, and they needed to clean out space and make room for Time Spiral, and he offered me booster boxes of Cold Snap for $40 a piece, and I turned him down because I had all the cards I needed from Cold Snap, and I wasn't like a sealed product collector or anything like that, so I moved on and waited for Time Spiral. Maybe I should have bought those boxes. Coming in at number 3 is Snapcaster Mage, up $6.84 to $43. This, of course, being the Modern Masters 2017 version. And this card is aggressively climbing, already passing its predecessor. And I think that's for a couple of reasons. First off, I don't know the math as far as numbers go because this isn't something they reveal. What's the difference between a Mythic in Modern Masters 2017 versus a Rare in Innistrad when you look at print runs? I don't know which actually has more copies out there, or maybe they're comparable, but I think what's really driving this is the fact that it has brand new art. It does look really amazing. This is probably a really sharp looking foil. I can imagine this being an amazing foil. So I do think a lot of players are going to gravitate towards this version of the card. Now, a lot of folks appreciate the old one, myself included, because it was the last of the cards that will feature a real Magic player on them. And that's kind of a sad change that won't be something going forward, but we've known that for quite some time. And at least they've given us a really nice piece of art on this new card. Coming in at number 2, I mentioned this one earlier, so I won't go into too much more detail, but Seismic Assault, 8th edition version up 812 to 985, 10th edition up 964 to 1196. Huge percentage increases here. Finally, coming in at number 1, Liliana of the Veil for Modern Masters 2017, up 965 this week to 76.98. Now, admittedly, Lily was a little bit undervalued, I think, during the pre-release time when the set was coming out, and she quickly climbed up to where you would almost expect her to be, and she's going to keep climbing. This is a card that, sure, it sees a ton of play in Modern, Legacy, Vintage, Casual play, but it transcends the game. It's one of those iconic cards. So when I think of this card, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Tarmogoyf, these are the cards that represent Magic in the modern era. And this card alone is just more than the components of what is printed on the card. It means more to people. I mean, it's got classic art. It's just one of those cards that people want to own and collect, whether they plan on playing with it or not, quite honestly. So this is going to keep going up, and I expect even the Innistrad version, which is stabilizing a little bit due to the fact that this version has recently come out, I think that will have potential to increase very soon too. All right, let's talk about Legacy. Now, to save a little time, we're just going to look at 5 notable cards this week from Legacy, 2 that are declining, 3 that are increasing. And we'll start off with Goblin Wizard from the Dark, down $5.24 to $13. Now, this card actually spiked like a few months back a little bit, and now it's just sort of snapping back. So nothing too unusual here. It's actually a cool card. It's a really great casual card, probably a lot of fun in some casual formats, but the reason it stayed out of competitive tribal Magic play with goblins is basically because of its casting cost more than anything, but it's actually a really good card, and I do think it's a little undervalued at $13, quite honestly. Next, we have City of Shadows, which had a huge spike last week. This week down $10.17 to $25.99. At one point, this was around $40. That was crazy. This was a buyout. It's already snapping back very aggressively. Could be one of two things. The folks buying it out are already selling it back to the market. That's probably what's happening. Or else when it spiked, a lot of people that just had these in trade binders threw them out there on eBay. I had a friend that did that, so that's very, very possible too. But aside from that, this is going to keep going down. Again, I don't think it's going to go down as low as it was before this buyout happened. Again, because that buyout put the spotlight on this card, and it's actually a really cool commander card. All right, let's look at some cards that are increasing now, starting with Concordant Crossroads from Legends, up $13.46 to $68.45. Now, this is a great casual card. It sees a lot of play in those casual formats. Sees a little bit of play sometimes in Legacy Elves decks. I mean, not all builds of it, but sometimes you'll see that in that particular deck. But this has had a nice, healthy increase, and over time, this will continue to increase. Now, this particular week, we saw a big jump, so we will most likely see a little bit of a snapback. I don't necessarily think this is a buyout or anything like that. Maybe the market's a little dry, but I do think this card is going to continue to increase. There is a cheaper version out there if you're just looking to play with this card. There's a Chronicles version that you can get much, much cheaper than this, but it is white bordered, so a lot of folks aesthetically don't like that, which will always kind of send them back to this version of the card. Next, we have Island of Wak Wak, up $35.62 this week to $132.49. Now, this is a card that I was talking about for a really long time. If you go back a year and a half, I was kind of saying it was really undervalued. It's one of those reserve list Arabian Nights cards that I know will go up in price. Well, it's really been hot lately. It's gone up another $35 this week. I do think, again, it will snap back a little bit, but for the most part, this is easily over a $100 card, and I think it's going to keep going up over time. Finally, the last card today, Power Artifact, up $57.41 to $109.95. This is from Antiquities, another reserve list card. This is definitely a buyout. This is doubled in value, so this reeks of a buyout, no doubt. But again, even if the purchaser sells them back relatively quickly, we will see a significant price drop, I think, on this card, but it's not going to go all the way back down to where it was because, again, it is a really good commander card. So there's a lot of folks that probably never heard of this card before that are just finding out about it because of this buyout. They're going to want copies of it once they get reintroduced into the market. And this card could start to increase now as time goes on. It's definitely one to keep an eye on, but don't pay $100 for it. All right, having said that, that's the Market Watch for this week. We'll be back next week with an all-new episode. And in the middle of the coming week, I will probably do another special edition Market Watch where we look at Modern Masters 2017 and check in and see how that's doing. So until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.